Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. Guys, listen, I'm your host, Melvin Casey Lars. You know how we do it on this show. You know, we don't waste time with cookie cutter questions and pontificating nonsense. We just like to talk about things that are real. So today, as you know, those of you that's always with me, and I thank you guys for being here, that are always with me. You know, this month is dedicated to domestic violence. Now, obviously, we know that that's a very serious situation, but when we talk about domestic violence, we often just leave it at the fact that it's something that involves families, usually between the spouse and their significant other. But it goes much deeper. It happens in the workplace. It happens in schools. It happens everywhere. So tonight we have two very beautiful, lovely young ladies that are going to be sharing with us. They represent their company, cMA+TH. And both of them are going to tell you more about themselves. However, we just give you a little light introduction because we want you to understand one thing, is that anytime anyone is discriminated against, anytime you are disenfranchised, it is a very, very serious situation. And tonight we'll be talking about disenfranchisement. We will be talking about people pretending to be desensitized to what is needed as individuals move forward. We also have to cover this, guys. And again, I'm happy that you're here. We also have to cover this. You know, people love to say to people, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or my dad came here, he had 5 cents in his pocket. Bull, you know what? What can you buy for a nickel even back then? You had to have somebody to either what they call give you a stake, give you a place to live, give you an opportunity to get started, all of those things. So before you allow someone to try to psych you out with all that crazy, what I call psychobabble, don't even go there. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, with Ms. ANDREA Johnson and Reynolds, ANDREA Johnson Reynolds, and Ms. Who am I talking to tonight?
Elsa
We're talking
Brown.
to Ms. Elsa Brown. Now, I don't talk to Ms. Elsa Brown as much, but listen, I mentioned cMA+TH already. These ladies have a dynamic math company called cMA+TH. Guys, I'm here to tell you, once you get me past subtraction and addition and a little multiplication, I'm done. But these ladies are the quintessential experts, and they will share with you, quite honestly, some very disturbing and very upsetting information as it relates to huge conglomerates that feel they just can bully people around and push people around and do what they want to do. And, you know, we all talk about plagiarism. All you guys know I'm a writer. And we talk about plagiarism and how people steal your materials and try to make it their own. I mean, we've heard it all. So tonight, with ANDREA like to make sure that we understand that she was born in Los Angeles, California. But she moved to Louisiana as a young child. And she says that her accent gives her away a lot of times. And she talks about being an engineer and having the opportunity to play in mud, if you will, to protect the oil rigs and that type of thing. And she'll tell you more about that. Miss Elsa, you know, all of the stuff that's going on right now, we're having people talking about immigrant this and immigrant that and who's this and who's that. Let me say on behalf of what we call the Native Americans, everyone that's in this country is an immigrant. Let me just put that out there before we waste our time. Now, Elsa has shared with us, you know, that her parents are very hard workers, and she started out here, her generation of migrant workers from South Texas and that kind of thing. And she's going to tell you more about that. So let's get down to brass tacks. You've heard me babbling enough. Let's talk to our guest. Elsa, ANDREA, good evening.
Good evening.
Who wants to go first? Let's hear a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what makes you the person you are.
You've already talked to ANDREA a lot, so you're right. I did come from an immigrant background. My grandfather came here to the United States at 5 years old, and he became a citizen in 1962. He was born in 1914, and he became a U.S. citizen in 1962. But he worked very hard, and we would leave in May. come back in October. So I was always 2 months behind. But I thank God that even then I would get, straight A's in school and such, I was always hungry for school. And so I would always catch up right away, even though I would start in October. My schooling would start in October. I would make up 2 months. And so I started working at 7 years old. I was out there in the fields with everyone, with my family, picking the tomatoes and the cucumbers and, anything we could. And that was my life. And then when my grandparents retired, I started going to school, and school was a passion for me. And they would separate those that wouldn't understand and would take them somewhere else. And I was like, why are you separating them? Like, why am I not going? Why am I not going with them? And they would have fun, and they would have, Christmas parties and stuff. And I was over here stuck in the smart table, and they would say, no, you're smart enough. You don't need the parties and, the pick-me-ups that they would do for them. And so anyway, so that's how I lived my life. And I had such a passion. At 17, I was taking college courses. And back then there wasn't any dual credit, but I did my 4 years. I got my bachelor's degree, and then I got my master's degree, and then I got married. So for women, and by the way, it wasn't without hardship, because having a Hispanic background, my grandmother didn't want me to go to school. Graduating from high school was good enough. That was a big accomplishment because a lot of my cousins had already dropped out. So anyway, education was in my heart from the beginning. I wanted to learn more. I loved math, and so from a little girl, I would help my friends. I would, all the way through high school, and then I continued being a tutor. In fact, my teacher, when I was in college, I had no idea that that you would get paid for helping others. That was amazing. I finally started getting paid $4.25 an hour to help my peers now at the time. And so that to me, getting paid for anything, I already told you what my background was. So that was amazing to me, and I took it. And so I had 3 jobs, and taking anywhere from 6 to 7 classes at the university, and have 3 jobs at the same time to support myself throughout school. So that was something. And I didn't even, you don't even blink, you just do it. You don't have time to wallow sort of in why am I in this atmosphere, or why wasn't I, why are my parents rich? It was just something that you did, and something that you worked hard for. So it's been like that all my life. And then I wanted to continue, and my grandmother said, that's enough. Your bachelor's degree is enough. That's it. You can. And I was like, please, Grandma, please. This is a Hispanic. I was 22. You still don't disobey your grandma. And you don't. That's just in a Hispanic background, you don't disobey. Even my friends, I'm sorry, my cousins were 28, and if their dad said you can't go out, you can't go out. And so I begged my grandmother. I wanted a master's degree so bad in math, and I begged my grandmother to go to school, and she finally relented, and she said, okay, I'll let you go. And so I was extremely happy, and I got my master's degree. And then things started happening after that, and they started giving me jobs because they saw how passionate I was, with the tutoring and with helping others. And so I quickly got a job at the university. They just said, come on board at Texas A&M in Kingsville, and please teach for us. And then they got me another job at the community college. Please come teach for us, And then I got a job at Del Mar College, which is where I am now. and the same thing. And so I've always had the uh, of the blessing of being able to help others, to being able to help them understand this complicated math stuff, because to me it's honestly as easy as, you know, it's just easy. I could see it. My professors would be teaching up there and I would just see it, and I get it, you know, be it calculate, whatever it was, I would just get it. And then I would program my own programs in the computer to give it to me, to give me the answer in 5 minutes, you know, instead of taking, you know, sheets and sheets of paper. I would program. I also began to program the things in the computer. So yeah, I came from a very, very poor background to where I am now. And then, you know, I met Andrea, and we said, and Andrea was also passionate, you know, to help her kids understand, you know. And I think it was that fire and that passion that brought us together. And we said, Andrea, you and I can change the world, you know. We can change our city. We can make such a difference if they just give us a chance. And so here we are right now, where yeah, they did give us an opportunity, but unfortunately, because you know, it's just, you know, a Hispanic teacher and, you know, and a Black teacher coming together, female on top of
Yeah.
that. I think that
Yes.
has a lot to do with what we're going through right now, which you know, I think Andrea does a great job of
Absolutely,
explaining.
absolutely it does. And allow me to say this just before Andrea introduces us to her, is that the opening statement that I made was, and I want to be very clear, it's intended for our less melanated brothers who try to tell people that when people came through Ellis Island and all that kind of thing, you know, they had nothing and they did this and they did that. You know, that's just not true. So that was for our less melanated brothers, and we need to stop lying. I can say it, it's my show. We need to stop lying and just tell the truth.
Yeah.
So, but listen, thank you so much for that. And I know you and Andrea are going to give us a whole go here. And Andrea, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a LA girl that moved to LA. So as Melvin said, from Los Angeles, and I was raised by my grandmother predominantly, and my mom moved back to Louisiana, and that's where I say I'm from. I graduated and lived there for so long. When I decided to go to school in South Louisiana, and I just fell in love with the place. And there, that's where I began to, you know, find out who I was. Math was I enjoyed math, but it was my strongest, but I was able to make it through and so forth. But I was always able to tutor and help others. Helping friends, and I was always passing, and I was always the one that was struggling. But everybody else passed, so I know I can teach. But day I was in the tutoring lab, and one of the directors of the lab said, "Hey, do you want to work here? Because you're here why don't I just pay you for being here?" And so that's how I officially started teaching or tutoring my peers, my classmates. And then all my buddies and my friends were tutors. They were chemical engineers, electrical engineers, you know, computer science. So I always hung out with the enjoyed being with them. And so I eventually, I ended up graduating in the College of Engineering Technology with a minor in electronics and later a minor in mathematics. I got hired by a drilling, oil drilling company. I was a chemist on drilling rigs. And so every time I went to work, most times I got transferred to South Louisiana, moved to West Texas, and transferred here to Corpus Christi. But everywhere, every time I went to work, most of the times, they were always asking me, Miss, I'm your new mud engineer. And so people were always thinking I was lost because I was the only female and also the only Black female that they'd seen drilling rig before. And at the time in the state of Texas, there were only 2 female mud engineers in the state. And so once, you know, and so so everywhere I went, it was male dominant and stuff. But you know, I was a Girl Scout, you know, the one that liked to be out in nature and camping and swimming in lakes and stuff. And so Phil was just like being a Girl Scout out in the woods in the middle of a cotton field somewhere where a drilling rig was between Southwest Texas and even offshore and stuff. So that BP rig that had blown up out there, that would have been my job to contain. So it could be a life and death situation at times on drilling rigs, and I had been faced with at least two properties where something could have gone seriously wrong and stuff. But the main thing that they needed from me was my math. And so they wanted someone who could persist and be consistent and to persevere through the mathematics that was taught in the oil field. The oil field is just nothing but math. People wouldn't believe it or not, but I mean, it was just books of and decimals and percents, and I had to titrate. I had to make sure it was heavy enough, that the pH balance and so forth. So eventually, you know, the oil field is just up and down, and I got caught up in that, and I ended up landing in Corpus Christi and staying, and then end up being the first, I ended up being a technician. And then at that first female technician they had ever had, during the interview, I was the only one to ask for a screwdriver, you know, and so I was taking things apart. And so they went on, hired me, and I was with them for 2.5 years, fixing things and copy machine and doing digital and analog and stuff. And so I was on the techie side. And then later on, I did end up kind of studying schools. And then one day someone said, why don't you just go ahead and get your teacher's degree? You know, you're always talking about the kids. And so I ended up pursuing math and education. And I was blessed to only pay for my first class and my last class. And I graduated from Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi. And so in 2008, I walked across the stage. So, and then here we are today. I also am part-time at Del Mar College. I'm teaching my favorite subject, which are the foundational math classes, because I know that if they don't have the foundation, they can't go there. And so I know that ELSA and I help every adults move towards their dreams. I had to start cMath as easy later on in 2014.
Ladies, fantastic. And Ms. Elsa, I want to make sure that I clear that up. When I said, you know, people talk about, oh, they came here only with their shoelaces and that kind of thing. I'm talking to those historians that try to belittle all of the hard work that the migrants do and other disenfranchised people, etc. So I had to make that clear, because I want you to understand that it is nothing short of phenomenal of what you've been able to accomplish as a human being. And that's what we talk about on this show, is being humanitarians. And we make it very clear that the only thing I understand about the Bible is very simple. You know, it says God has no respect of person. So anything else people start talking about, quite frankly, I tell them to miss me with that. You know, all of the other foolishness and trying to talk about somebody being superior to this person and that person and all of that kind of that. Talk to God about that. Don't talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Because we all know that if we believe what we say we believe, then there's no respect of person. And, you know, even they were talking about the commandments, and God said, hey, treat people like you know, hang on your hats on these too. You know, treat people like you want to be treated and that kind of, so that's it. So I'm so happy that you're sharing with your sharing. I'm so happy that Andrea is sharing what she's sharing. And as you ladies talk about cMath, we're going to jump right into that. And we have new artist members coming on that I want to share. Again, thank you for coming. And we happy that they're here, and we have some new people here. Looks like some of your friends are here. I see Susan Liberto and Dolly Hendry, and it says Gilda's iPhone. So we have some of your friends here as well, and we want them to feel free to come on and speak whenever they feel led to do so, or whenever you guys have them, they're going to share. But as we talk about cMath, let's just tell our audience a little bit about cMath, and then we want to progress into how you ladies have been received, and I say that lightly, and not received, I say that heavily. And I want to repeat myself again, how people have the audacity to take your expertise and try to make it their own. So let's just jump right into cMath and let's talk about what's going on.
Well, cMath, I think, came about, again, we were together in church. We attend the same church, and we would talk there. And like I said earlier, we were both passionate about teaching. And Andrea came with some statistics. She, we would always talk about how are you doing? We would always check on each other. And then, and so ultimately, Andrea came and said, Elsa, did you hear? And she came, with some statistics. I said, Andrea, it's worse than that. And so I told her about what was really happening, because I go to the meetings, to the math meetings, and we have the statistics out there, and how many students are failing and such. And at the time, only out of the 80% of the students that would come at the lowest level of math, we call that remedial math, out of the 80% of those students, only 1.7% would actually graduate. So if you put that in perspective, if there was 3,000 students that would come in as freshmen, 80% of those, or the 80% were 3,000 students, only about 51 of those 3,000 students would actually graduate from college. And those were real statistics that were there at the time. And that's when Andrea and I said, we can do something about that. We can do something, we can help, because both of us were passionate about math and about helping and about teaching and tutoring and such. And so we said, let's meet at McDonald's after church. And so we did. And that's how, cMath is Easy came about. It was really, I think God laid it in our hearts, and we came together and started this, this company.
Yeah, at the time, I was teaching 8th grade in the middle school, and it was when Elsa and I would be talking that we both were having the same problems, even though that she was teaching adults and I was teaching children. We both problems. And so that's how I think we kind of came across, is that there's that, even though I was here, she was still seeing the same results in the colleges. And so there was something that was missing, that there was a trend that was carrying through the high school. And so that's where we were really beginning to put things together in how can we help our community. That's how we met at McDonald's, and that's where the kids would go play, and we were there writing on napkins. Just talking. I just spoke for hours, and the kids just played for hours. And then during the holidays, I think it was during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, I think we just speak one another 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, just dreaming about where all we could impact, how we could impact our community, our state, even our nation. And that's how we just really just kept going, because we just kept feeling this pressure that we have to offer, we have something to give. And we started out as adults only, because we knew that kids can always get from teacher, parents usually pay for tutors, and so that's not where we started at the beginning. We were running into adults help for the workforce. And it's like, if a person is not in college and they're not in high school or in grade school, where does the average person have help for math. There was nowhere for them to get help. And so we were going to be that, that place where an adult can come and get help if they're trying to get their electrical license, if they were needing to take an advancement test on their job. You know, that she was going for a supervisor promotion, and she had to take a test, and several people were applying for the job, and she worked for the sheriff department, and she had to take a math test for the sheriff department, and she had already been there 15, 20 years. And she was the only one, the Black woman was the only one to pass the math test, and they tried to sneak it past her. And so, but she knew decimals, percents, fractions. She knew how to multiply and divide. She was the only one that had applied for the exam and had passed. And so it leaked out that she had passed the exam and did excellent on the other parts. And so she ended up eventually getting the supervisor job. And so found people who are in the middle of their jobs needing to advance, and there's a math portion. I've been learning that in our community, a lot of wineries, we have a lot of big industries with the port and so forth, and they have job screening. They have jobs that they use to screen for applicants. And guess what? They a lot of those job screens have I even took one several years ago, about 15 years ago. I think it had like 200 questions, if I remember right. And it's like, you know, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I knew that if I did the math, and that's all I did on the test, I only did the math portion on that job application. And guess what? I got an interview because I knew that if I knew the math, I knew the rest of the stuff. And I was still invited, even though I did half I still got called for an interview because I had a choice of wanting to be there or not, and so forth. So what some of the people who are wanting to apply for these well-paying jobs, but guess what? There's math involved. There's math they ask to even get an interview. And so that's where my passion was coming in of serving those who could not, who place to get help because they weren't in school. They just needed the job. They wanted to move on in their career. They didn't need a degree for that. They just needed some basic math, able to get past the applications.
Wow, very interesting. You know, as you share that, and that is why it's so important that I get. And by the way, you ladies, you've been getting these thumbs up and hearts all night as you've been talking. I should share that with you. And you know, it's when you can hear from professionals that are in the race. That's what I call it, being in a race. That are in the race, such as Miss Elsa Brown and you, Miss Andrea. It's always better than have someone else talking. You know, well, just being a talking head and trying to share someone else's story. So Elsa, now Andrea is kind of laying down the law for me as it comes to math and us, and you ladies are getting these thumbs up and hearts and that kind of thing. You've mentioned to us about being on the college and university level, and I know, have being an old high school principal, worked at the Michigan Department of Education, all of that. I know how these things can be sometime, and with you being in the university, and when you and Andrea talked about how people were quote, if for lack of a better word, being skipped over, not getting the real understanding, not being able to comprehend, how much does that affect what you do at your level of secondary education?
Well, it's for when once they come to me, this is now their life. You know, when they're in high school, or you know, they're still sort of getting to know themselves and seeing what they want while they're still in high school. There's very few that already know what they want to do and they pursue it. But when they're when they come to me, they're already saying, I need to better myself to do X or Y, you know, I mean, and so they come to me so that I can help them through, because they need this for their life, you know, I mean, this is what they're gonna, you know, be doing. So if they fail in my classes, now what, you know, their dreams have been, you know, their dreams are gone because they can't get through that, you know, math. Math for them was such, it is still such a barrier, because I don't know how many countless of students almost had their degree except for that math. They would leave the math all the way to the end because they knew they could get through everything else except that one math class. I have a very close personal friend who never got his engineering degree because of that one math class. And he quit school because of that one math class that he couldn't pass. And so you know, and I told him at the time, this was, you know, 15 years ago or 20, I said, I let me help you through. And he was so discouraged. He said, no, there's no help for me, and would not, you know, would not take my help. And so and so when Andrea and I got together, and like I said, had this passion, we came through in both perspectives. And like Andrea was mentioned earlier, how I was having the same issues, you know, teaching the remedial courses as Andrea was having in 8th grade, because a lot of the math was the same. As Andrea spoke earlier, it was the decimals, it was the fractions, and we started saying, hey, Andrea and I said, Andrea, why don't we focus on that? Why don't we focus on the foundation of the math? And I bet if we can help them with the foundation, they'll be successful building the house. If they have a good foundation, they'll be successful building the house. And so once the students would come to me in the college setting, I'm telling you, my classes would, you know, I don't know if you know what closed means. I'm sure you do, but I don't know if the audience does. But my classes would close. In other words, they would get filled up so fast because they knew I would help them. They knew. One time, one student said, she mentioned, Miss Brown, we're not having a test. I'm going to get mad, you know, if we're going to have a test today. And I said, does this face look like it cares if you're going to get mad? We're still going to have a test. They said, Miss Brown, we know you love us. We know you care. And just by teaching math, they could see that, because I never said I love you. I never said I care. But just by the teaching, just by the passion, you know, they could see it. They could see the care that I had for them. And so so Andrea and I wanted to, you know, help our city somehow by doing that. And we found, like I said, several foundational issues in both areas. And we were unfortunately naive enough back then that we could change the world just by ourselves. We could do it, you know, and not knowing that that we were going to face many obstacles along the way. And
May I interrupt? May I
yes,
interrupt, Ms.
yes,
Brown?
go ahead.
Allow me to say that's not being naive. That is a person that cares. And why do I say that? Most people are familiar with Joe Clark and Lean on Me because everybody have seen Lean on Me. Well, what if Joe Clark, people thought he was naive? What if my boss, George McKenna, who there's a movie about George McKenna, the George McKenna story, that was similar to that with Joe Clark? Or what about Stand Up and Deliver with James Alma? I mean, so don't allow me to say to you on air with all of our thousands of people watching, never let people make you think that you're naive because you are compassionate.
Yeah. And honestly, we thought we could change the world. And so we started with, you know, one person at a time. We started with, we combined the two. That very first, we were so, we went to this meeting, and there was a particular person that spoke up. and Miss Hill, it was in one of Miss Hilda's meetings, and they spoke up, and he needed help. He needed some kind of he needed funds, but he also needed help for his kids that he was providing scholarships for, you know, because they were going to Del Mar, but a lot of them were failing, and they weren't getting the, here he was providing all kinds of scholarship funds, but they were failing. They couldn't get through the remedial courses. And so Miss Andrea and I stepped in and we said, hey, here we are, you know. And so he said, okay, I want to do this with you. I want to partner with you. Can you come help me? And we said yes. But the beautiful thing about it was that not only was it for college purposes, but the company that sponsored it also wanted his employees to learn the math because they didn't know the math on the field. And so so after our 4-day session, then we also helped those construction workers. And then I think it was a year later, we came back and spoke to the owner of that construction company. And we said, hey, how are you guys doing out there? And he said, those are my best crew out there. Those guys are my best crew now because they learned the math. So we were able to combine both the education part to get them through the remedial courses and the on the job. So we proved that if you can know the math, you know, you can be successful out there. And
well,
so
that's great. You know, and Ms. Brown, that's a perfect segue. Now, I understand that you and Andrea have some guests that will share with us a little bit about having being blessed, I'll call it, to be tutored by one or both of you, and they are going to share with us this evening. I certainly hope. I just want to ask them to unmute themselves and to open their cameras so that our audience can see those handsome and beautiful faces. And we want to welcome them here. And we are glad that I see Mr. Denny Robertson. I see Ms. Dolly Hendry, I'm sorry. I see Gilda is still on her phone here. Gilda, feel free to come in and join us. We see Susan Liberto. And guys, if you weren't here earlier, as I told you, this is not my show. This is Andrea's and Elsa's show. So I'm shutting up. You guys continue.
Yeah, I would like to have Dolly, maybe she can share a testimony about in our classes. Hi.
Sure. I have he's 13 now, my son, and I'll give a little background. I have a chemistry degree and a master's, and I was still having difficulty helping my son in math because some of the things are the terminology. The math is the same, but the terminology is different. For instance, if you, for us, it would be sequence. At the school, it would be stem and leaf. And when, you know, seeing this, I'm like, this is what this is. But my son couldn't connect because he said, Mom, that's not right, because that's not what the teacher is saying. And so I reached out to see Math is Easy, and we drove from Houston to Corpus for one of their camps, summer camps. And in fact, even before there, Andrea was in Houston, and my son was having problems with multiplying his nines. And I'm telling you, within 5 minutes, she gave him a tool and a technique, excuse me, and he learned his 9 timetables. And so we were like, from there, I was like, wherever you are, I want to come to your camp. And we invested that time with both Elsa and Andrea for him. And we got a report card. That first report card for that next year, his grades went up in math. And he made A's and has been making great grades. He made an A in math. And so what the tutors do, I don't call them tutors, they're math specialists. And they have been invaluable in my family. So it kind of turned his mindset from being like, I don't like this class, to, well, maybe this year he says, math might be one of my best subjects. Wow. So thank you all so much.
Hi, Ms. Denny. Would you share about Testimony about how cMath is easy has helped your children?
We have 11 children in our home, and those children, we have 3 10th graders, two 9th graders, and we have 2 5th graders and 6th graders. And our children have been in the math camp with Miss Andrea, Miss ELSA. When we first entered into their camp, our children were really behind in everything. Math was not their favorite subject. They didn't want to study. They didn't want to do it. And after being in camp with us, we turned everything into a game to where instead of I don't want to go, it's like, when are you going to pick us up, or when can we get there? And they went from 2 grades, that they were upgraded to two grades, 2 subjects. Math is not only their favorite subject, they're doing very well because of her. And she comes in, and we're still in camps with them. When they have anything, we're there. They're very supportive. They've been a blessing to our family. And they started out sitting there. She was watching us struggle, and she just jumped in. We didn't have to even ask. She just jumped in and started helping the children. And ELSA has also been a blessing. Even in my life, when I was in class sitting there with them, we were trying to see how to help our children, how to better help our children. And they just jumped in and started helping us too. They've been a blessing to all of us. And I'm really thankful that they have people like ELSA and Andrea in this world to help people like us.
Yeah, Miss
Wow.
Denny's been part of our camps at least 4 or 5 years
Yes.
now, maybe. And so crossing over from special needs students also that have just made drastic, have come along in their learning and so forth.
Yes.
Well, ladies, you have to know, Miss Denny, and I think it was Miss Hendry that left us, but you ladies have to know, as a fixed principal, the reason I mentioned Mr. Joe Clark and my boss, Dr. McKenna, is because it's a struggle. It's a struggle getting the quote higher ups to really understand that we need people like ELSA and Andrea and those that can really touch and affect the lives of children. So the information that you are sharing is just invaluable, because I'm telling you, it is. I don't know if you work with high school students or if you work in central office, but it's a really ugly scene when you see and hear people get in front of cameras when the news media is out and say all of the right things, but the moment those cameras are off and the news media is gone, it's back to business as usual, and they could care less. And you know, it's always the parents. And I have to say that, and I'm shutting up again, is that I used to talk to my staff all of the time, and even my colleagues at the central office level. It's very simple. If all of us are so smart, and if we all have figured out it's the parents, then why aren't we doing something about it? So when I get to hear parents share, and I know Ms. Hendry mentioned being a chemist and that kind of thing, it really does my heart good. So it's just great to hear you ladies, and I need to shut up so that they can get to what they need to get to, but I just had to share that.
And so, and then all of a sudden, ELSA and I realized everywhere. And so we started creating online tutorials. We specialize in a test that Texas has, a TSI assessment that they have, and we decided, and we realized that everybody had resources for the SAT, and then Texas came along with this TSI assessment where you have to take an exam to be able to to college level math classes. And so, and there was no information out there at the time. We're talking about 7 years ago. No one even really knew what the TSI was. And so that's where we began to focus on something that no one had information about. And so we realized 80% of the students that were entering into college were falling into remedial math classes. And that's what ELSA had shared earlier. And then that's when we said, we'll do something about it. And so then we started doing boot camps and workshops for the TSI. We were able to work with local officials in the city to do camps, and some of some organizations. We did some boot camps, and we did some private boot camps for the TSI, which involved high school seniors and adults at the time. But then later on, the legislation passed and said that if a ninth grader had enough high school credits, they too could take college credit classes. And so all of a sudden, it went from just high school seniors and adults to 8th graders, 9th graders, 11th graders, and including the high school seniors, adults. And it's like, wow, this thing has gotten big. And now, since they've done the new accreditation and the new accountability, the TSI assessments in the high schools are now the very things that are possibly in the funds, because it's determining if you're college career ready or not. And so the TSI is a very big deal now. It's now in the past 6 years, every student, every 10th grader between 10th grade and 11th grade will be asked or mandated almost to take the TSI, because also the TSI helps a high school student be able to take dual, which has become a big deal and a big thing now, to where a high school student could have high school college credits and a freshman, or have 15 to 30 credits already before they even get to before they even graduate from high school. And so that's what we're doing, was specializing in the TSI assessment to prep high school students and adults so they start in college level classes and not get stuck taking remedial classes. And we've found over and over again that students are getting them, and they're losing a year, they're losing 2 years, they're losing. We helped a lady who had literally been at the community college possibly 8 years because of the math. And then she met us,
And that's great.
And now she's that.
Well, listen, let me ask
And
this
so,
question.
so I was able to transfer to the university.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so then we did. So we took 9 months to create a course for the TSI, and then we found ourselves writing books. And I had never imagined in my life that I would be an author of books. I actually prefer writing. I really enjoy. I didn't know what God was doing when I was in the grade schools and writing team. So what I was putting together was going to be for every 8th grade teacher in the district to be following that we were setting down to follow. And so I was on the curriculum writing for 6 years for the district, for our local school district. And now writing curriculum now. And sometimes one problem can be, we be broadening, making it bigger into piece that is almost being designed to make it easier and clear and simple to understand, that each problem, the starting point, it has a root, it has a seed that you need to begin at. And I think that's what has made us different from everybody else. And so the books that we've written, we've done a TSI Made Easy math workbook. We've even designed a nursing math workbook, but we're a little nerved out. And we're going to be talking about that a little later. And then also we've done a multiplication math workbook. I had a chance to, kids, I had a chance to, they were my guinea pigs in designing it and seeing how can I make it bigger? Where did the student slow down at? What do I need to relook at so that it has a better flow in the multiplication? Because if they don't know that, they won't go anywhere.
And so in our books, it's kind of, I can describe it like this. If you were in a dark room, which a lot of times that's what math is, you don't know how to get out of that dark room, right? What do you want? You want somebody to say, can you get me out of here, and lead you by the hand and get you out of that dark place. And so in this book, we take you by the hand and lead you out of that dark place to a place of sort of enlightenment, to where you're saying, I get it now, and you see the light. You see how you got from one step to the other, and we start you off with, as you mentioned earlier in the very beginning about addition and subtraction. That's where we start. We start you with addition and subtraction, and slowly to the end of the book lead you to where you're doing algebra 2. And you're like, how did I get here? And you've just followed all the way straight through, and at the end you're doing algebra 2, because we've laid it out so simple, step by step. There was a 12-year-old girl, 12 years old. Now this is a book that we got for college students, right? I'm sorry, that we wrote, so that college students can get through their college entrance exam. But there was a 12-year-old girl that Andrea was helping. And Andrea said, okay, so do I need to explain this portion? You know, because she was like a month behind school. She went to a school that was all year round. She went from a regular school to an all year round school. So when she got there, she was a month behind already. And so she said, no, Miss Johnson, I read your book and I got it. I understood it with your book. A 12-year-old grabbed our cMA+TH book and was able to follow it. So we took her by the hand in this book, and we took her all the way through for her to be able to understand this section that she was a month behind. So that's the kind of passion of we think of all of those scenarios that you could have, all of those thoughts. We don't skip a beat, we don't miss a step. We make sure to put it in there and tell you, you have to step here and then here and then here, so you could get through, and you'll be doing algebra 2 by the end of the book. It's just amazing, I think, what the Lord has downloaded, and then we've been able to provide for everyone.
Well, allow me to engage our parents here a little bit with this. You know, having always been a fix-it principle, going into schools where nobody else want to be, and you make different, not you, but God put people around you and the students and the parents. I'd like to ask our parents, are you seeing, or do you see a marked difference in the overall attitude of your children, their self-esteem, how they feel about themselves? Are they more open to listen when you are trying to share with them? You know, because as we all know as adults, and when you're dealing with children, they think none of us know anything. You know, no matter how much sometimes they are not being successful. But do you notice since they are getting this help, and they are more efficient in their math area, are you seeing improvement in other areas? Ms. Robertson or Ms. Hendry, either one of you.
Well, yes, that does help. When your kid understands something, then it overflows to other areas of their lives. My son is kind of personality driven in terms of, and so when his peers see him understand something, they are drawn to that as well. And it's one thing when you know something, but it's another thing you can show them what you know. And so, see, math has the ability to make it where they can even show their peers what they learn, what they learn. So that, of course, helps their self-esteem in other areas in their social life. And then they see also that maybe your parents do know a little bit as well, you know, because they can see that this is what we were trying to show them, even though we weren't using the right terminology and everything. So yes, it does overflow when they have that self-esteem. And it's interesting where even where some of their day-to-day teachers, because one reason why we did go to the camp was because my son was in the 4th grade at the time when we first went to that camp, and with the math camp with cMA+TH, and his self-esteem was very low in math, and he felt like he was failing because in all the other areas he was achieving. But in math, he had that disconnect. And we found that just his learning styles, they kind of math kind of even takes that into account, their learning styles, and know how to approach that. And so it's not just the numbers, it's more so the individual, and they connect with them in that way first and then go on. Because my son is also one of those that he was used to getting things right quickly, and then when he was hit with a challenge that he couldn't seem to overcome, and the teacher wasn't helping him, and we weren't using the right language to help him, and I have my minor was math, so if you have a chemistry, you're gonna have to take all those maths where the numbers don't even make sense. And so I knew the math, but didn't know how to help him overcome the obstacle of even his self-esteem in that way.
I think it's a big difference in them coming home and hiding their paperwork and saying they don't have any homework in math. And a big difference, even my high schoolers that were supposed to be in honor classes, they were working with calculators to the point to where they couldn't function. And when Andrea got through working with them, he said, "Oh, I see how to do this now." And they don't hardly use the calculators unless it's something that's really big or major. And that's a big difference. They didn't know how to function without a calculator. And the younger ones, the ones in the 8th grade, were still working on multiplication. She built a foundation to where it was sure and steady, and they didn't want to work in a group. And after she worked with them individually, they all started working together. And she was playing games to the point to where card games, who ever heard of playing math games with cards, to where I even joined in, to where it was so much fun. I started becoming a regular in the class, to where they said, "Grandma, it's not your turn." So yes, they've made a big difference.
Wow, those are great testimonials, Ms. Robertson and Ms. Hendry. It's I love hearing parents share, and as you're sharing, it's a great segue, Ms. Robertson and Ms. Hendry and Gilda and Susan, because I know you guys think I'm ignoring you, but I'm not. But I have heard some horrific stories about how these ladies have been treated by the establishment. Allow me to call them the establishment, please. And if they're not shy, if they just kind of share with us, some of the shark infested waters they've had to tread just to try to help children. And I have to emphasize this to my audience and to you. That is one thing that gets me going, is when people try to put roadblocks in the way because of their own ineptness and because of their own jealousies, and they hurt children. And I've been really upset in hearing some of the atrocities that are taking place with ELSA and with ANDREA, with individuals in higher places that's not only stealing their work, but trying to set roadblocks for them. And what they're doing is they're damaging children. So Ms. Brown and Ms. Johnson Reynolds, if you don't, Reynolds Johnson, if you don't mind sharing with us, if you kind of talk to us a little bit about that, please.
Well, it all started when we did our book signing, I think, for our cMA+TH. We were really excited. A bookstore accepted our book into their stores, and we were thinking, oh, we made it big, and so we had a big ribbon cutting, and then it's like, we were like in a momentum, and then all of a sudden it seemed like things slower and slower. And then I helped Miss Denny with her kids, and she had several kids that were getting ready to be taking the TSI, and she was like, "Hey, can you help the kids? They're gonna be taking a test soon." I said, "Well, what are they using now for it?" And so that brought brought a packet, and from school. And I was just, it's okay, I'll look over it and the kids for tutoring. And so and then I started looking through it, and all of a sudden I see Texas A&M University Upper Bound program stamped on one of the sheets, hidden in the middle of the packet. And then I was like, and it seemed like it's changing. And I was like, well, what is this? And then all of a sudden I realized that it was our cMath or TSI math book in the middle, in the high school packet that they had. Kristen, can you
They had
tell how it happened?
They had cMath material hidden within
cMath, all of a
theirs
sudden I realized
without
claiming it to
our
be their
permission.
own.
They had
yeah,
not
that our information was retyped in black and white in this packet. The meat heart of our workbook was retyped and been made copies of and passed to the high schools. And
they passed it
that's
out
where
as their information, as their knowledge. They were passing it out to the different high schools. Look at what Texas A&M Corpus Christi did for you. And they started passing it out. And the first time I saw it, my heart sank, because here we had been since 2015 telling them we can help, we can do this, we can come in and we could go to the high schools and such, and we can help you get through. We've had success. And like Andrea was saying, after our book came out, our revenue started dropping. Like there wasn't a whole lot of calls anymore for us to help and such. And then after Andrea showed me that, we saw the reason why.
Well, but ladies, as you share that, as we started earlier on this show, as I said, this month we're dedicating to domestic violence. And as we know, perpetrators of domestic violence always try to make the recipient of their violence feel as though it's their fault. And unfortunately, we are having this conversation, and it's akin to domestic violence. Because first of all, as you are sharing and helping children and families, now you have this huge conglomerate of Texas A&M and individuals that work for them. Of course, listen, we know how the game is played. You get people in the organization that, quote, cannot possibly be sued or can't be held accountable and just say, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, when we know that's not the case. And then you hide behind something that's written in the law, that's hidden in the loopholes and all of that kind of thing, so that people can steal from others. But we are the same. Those individuals that do that, are the same persons that sit on juries and call people crooks, the same persons that talk about being patriot and so patriotic. Those are the same persons. The same persons that try to vilify people that need public assistance. Those are the same persons that's stealing, and because that's what they're doing, that's stealing your expertise and trying to make it their own. So as you share that, what recourse do you feel like you have in combating these injustices?
The recourse is, well, in Texas, they have something called, sovereign immunity, that you have to ask permission to sue a state institution. And so how do we get across and letting them know that, hey, we are, here's our information. They have purposely rewritten it, they purposely retyped it. They word for word, problem for problem, took the heart of our book and then started passing it out. And there's nothing, and you're saying that we can't sue them, we can't do anything to them, there's nothing that can be done. And then they feel like, then they pass it out to them, the Corpus Christi independent school districts. and to the principals, to the counselors that are passing it out, to the high school and so forth. Those were possible clients.
Now,
Um,
Mr. Melvin, these are the two biggest institutions here in Corpus Christi. The two biggest. You've got CCISD, you've got Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. And not only that, they were both having huge issues, huge. Their students were not passing. They could not find a solution. Corpus Christi ISD, they had a 5% pass rate or something low like that. Andrea could probably tell you the numbers better than that. But 95% of their students were failing these TSI classes. And not one, they did not have a solution. All of these, people got together and they didn't know what to do. You've got Texas A&M where their teachers had to pass the TSI. Their teachers couldn't pass the TSI with a particular score. And few of them were graduating because of this. 1, 2 would graduate. And they were having issues because they tried. They tried to get their TSI, a little TSI packet for themselves. And Andrea and I looked at that packet and we thought, oh my gosh. No wonder they're having such huge, because Texas A&M themselves tried to come up with their own packet and it wasn't working. And so neither one of these huge institutions had solutions. And so guess what? cMath is Easy goes in there and says, hey, you guys, we can help. We've got this book. And this book will take them step by step. It will lead them out. It would help them get through. You'll have record number passing your TSI. And we went to both institutions over the years, to both of them. And we said, here you are, we have this available for you if you want it. We'll come in here. We'll help your teachers even. Help them understand, like Dolly was saying earlier. We'll help them get in there and help them help the individual, not just the numbers, as Dolly was saying, but the students. We'll come and help the students understand the math. And we'll teach you how you could do that as a teacher. And then next thing you know, these two huge institutions that had no solution suddenly didn't call us back. Suddenly we didn't hear from them. All of these meetings we were having with them, because they were calling us for meetings. These were with we had the meeting with the superintendent. I had the meeting with the president. Well, I'm sorry, with the dean of education. I went in there and spoke to him because he was the one having issues. He asked me all kinds of questions. And then we got home and we're like, okay, we're gonna get a call anytime. Little did we know. They said, we have your information. We're gonna copy it, and we don't need you.
Tragedy. Such a tragedy. And that's why things like that need to be exposed, because people hide behind corporate lawyers and they figure when you're the small guy is that they can tie you up in court and spend all of these kinds of funds and deny. And we see that right now, obviously, in our political system, from the White House all the way down to local elections and that kind of thing. So, I would just like to ask this question. Has anyone even had the decency to even come to you and say, well, listen, maybe we can collaborate together, we can work together, let's sit down and work out a contract, or let's do a memorandum of understanding? Has any one of those institutions even had the decency to come to you and offer you a memorandum of understanding, or offer you contracts, even on a part-time basis, to work specifically with those areas where they're lacking?
Well, Melvin, you know, to the point where we realize that they don't really want to make room for other people. We're a minority-owned business. I'm Black, Elsa Hispanic. Go there and we visit with nonprofits. We visit with the universities. We visit with the ISDs in our area, in our region. It just seems like they only want to work with one another. It's over and over the pattern, but they're still getting the same results. And so it's just like, you know, we go, they have all these places like the university, they have these, you know, the business, you know, innovation, and then you have the small business places, you know, that help small businesses and, you know, incubators and so forth like that. And, but when it comes down to assisting and helping them get into the door to some of the other institutions or other small business, a lot of the people that we interact with, they have 100% of our clientele that are struggling, that are 80% failing, but yet we cannot get with them. We haven't been asked to be a part of them. And it hurts. It's like, why? You know, we have something that we can bring to the table. You know, we have something that we have been able to prove now often years, and have had up to 100% passing rate in groups, and have had an average of 80% passing with 80% failure in the high schools and in the colleges. Nowadays, they're doing dual enrollment into the community colleges and universities. Why? Because they cannot pass the TSI or had not made high enough scores on the SAT. So now this student is taking classes at the community college so that he can also go to the university. If they really understood what we could bring to the table, nobody loses on money, because the reason why they're doing the dual credit and the dual being dual students at the secondary level, because the universities move on losing out on money because they never get there because they don't have the scores high enough. What if we can help them in those areas? But no one wants to make room for I guess the newcomer. You know.
But let me help you and Elsa with this. Let me help you and Elsa with this. They do understand. They understand quite well. That is why they want to keep you on the outside. Because you bring you and Elsa in, what's that going to say about those people that's already there that does not have the expertise? They understand quite well. So again, the children lose, the young adults lose, the families lose because of selfish individuals that stand in the way because they want the spotlight on them. And the people don't understand, it's not about the spotlight being on you. It's about helping and assisting other human beings.
Yes.
Allow me to say this to you, ladies. I have teachers to this very day are angry with me because I make statements all the time at my faculty meetings. It is not about you. However, given the proper attitude, it can be because of you. And that's what you ladies bring to the table. It will be because of you. So now, I, being the selfish, narcissistic person that I am from the White House down, I can't figure out how to steal your credit. So then I steal from you and try to pretend that it's mine because I feel that you can't fight me and beat me and fight me successfully. That's what's happening here. They are very aware of what's happening. They are very aware. So, okay, so I get a few grades. I get students that's not being successful. So I use the same old playbook I've been using forever. I being the universities and big schools. Well, they just come to us unprepared, and the high schools are not preparing them, and the middle schools are not preparing them. And then you have people jumping on the bandwagon, and then you put a person in place at the highest level like Bessie DeVos, who doesn't have any education by her own admission, and you allow her to try to run the education for the entire United States. So sadly, what's happening is we need to get some attorneys that will come and work pro bono. They're out there, major attorneys they already know that these major institutions have hundreds of attorneys. They know they can tie stuff up in litigation and all of that, but they can get all past it. It can be something as simple as having an arbitrator, because they know that they have violated all kind of plagiarism laws and the whole nine, and it's just a matter of really making things public and making them answer to the parents. And the persons that can be your biggest allies are the parents. And we're not asking the parents to go out and do what they might feel jeopardizing themselves. But when you have institutions like this, or any institution for that matter, and having been in education all of my life and worked at all levels, it's sad when I hear these stories. It angers me when I hear these kinds of stories, and people keep trying to talk about there is no systemic racism. Let's call it what it is. If your name had been Beth, yeah, I'm saying it publicly, if your name had been Beth or Susan, there would be no problem, because now I can continue to perpetrate the myth of being superior. But certainly you can't be, quote, a brown person. Certainly you can't be, quote, a black person. And I have all of these people that are superior to you, and here you come and then you show us up. So you have to be careful with that. Right now, you hear people talk about CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, with these professional football players. Dr. Alu, who's an African doctor, is the first one that started to discover this and talking about helmets and brain trauma and things like this. So if you watch football, tomorrow is Saturday, you will see the NFL come on with the biggest lie in town in 2020, trying to give credit to these, quote, Caucasian doctors for being so innovative with helmets and trying to protect it. Lie, lie, lie. It's an African doctor that came, and they tried to poo-poo him, tried to talk him down, tried to pretend there was no CTE. So now they're agreeing, oh yeah, well, possibly that does happen. But now they're still trying to give the credit to these white doctors by putting these graphics up on TV and talking about all the work they're doing to ensure safety and all of that kind of madness. So this needs to be public, and it's live on Facebook right now. It's live on YouTube, and we're going to continue to share this broadcast, and it needs to get in the ears of those that can make changes. And we talk about minority businesses, but how can you be a successful minority business when you're being thwarted, when you're having your work stolen? That's where we are, and that's a very sad scenario for a country like America, who pretends to be on the cusp of everything. We have two persons sitting with us tonight. Two persons.
It's been interesting because, I told you we had our nursing math book, and I found statistics that 80% of incoming nursing students can't pass a basic math exam. We have the remedy. We have the solution for that. And if when you go into the nursing program, you have to make 100% on your exams to be able to move on. And if you don't, you have a few chances, or you're going to be asked to leave the program. And if you make a 95% or 98% on a math exam, that 2% that you missed, that 5% you missed, could actually kill a patient, can kill a person, because of the calculations you had to do and understand and make sure that they are reasonable when you're actually doing them. That when you do your math problem, if it says for that to have 200 tablets, is that reasonable? The students don't understand that that's not reasonable. They just put down 200 in their paper, not really understanding what they have done or what they have written, or what was the answer or the unit in which they should have had. Instead of for a baby, if you put in a 1.4 for titration for a child, but then you accidentally did 10.4. you know, that's something terrible could be happening because of mathematics. And that's also what bring is that even in those crucial careers, that the basics are so important. And we try to do that. We were trying to offer a nursing math workshop. Guess what? Some universities and some of the institutions here refuse to let anybody come. And we were only charging $5 for a pilot class, and they refuse to tell anybody about it. Are they them? Or they just don't want to open up the door and make room for somebody else. We just wanted to bring the math. We just wanted them to understand what was a liter, a metrics, what is a gram, and we were actually doing hands-on things. And we had those who did come and said, "Wow, I had this before I went through my nursing program," because they left with understanding.
Oh, she was a doctor.
And
That's the one that said that.
yeah. Yeah, and so, it's just, it just bothers us that they refuse to make room. They refuse to give us opportunity. It's just that they're territorial. We know a local area that had a program for the summer. They had 50 or 60 school kids going into the high school needing to take the TSI. Do you know that one student passed the TSI math? And we still didn't get a call?
A single one.
No.
Wow.
One out of 50 or 60 students.
Yeah.
One passed out of 4 weeks. And when we have a 4-day program, 4 weeks, and I talked to one of the parents, and she said, "My child is stressed out. They try to make her take it again and again." And the child was like, I don't want to do more. Because they didn't know where they needed to start. They didn't have the root foundations of what an 8th grader or 9th grader who had never had Algebra 1 or Algebra 2. We've been able to get people to pass the TSI who never had Algebra 2 or Algebra 1 before we started, and how we started. And so it's just,
And I think
they're territorial.
that in our book, we take you literally from the 6th grade to senior year. We take you through the math in 4 days. And so I think that you picked up on something to where they said, because they couldn't do it in 6 years, what we're able to do in 4 days. The universities, they take years for them to get them from the remedial courses all the way to college algebra. And we say, we could do it in 4 days. We could take them, grab them by the hand, and bring them out of all of those remedial courses in 4 days, in 12 hours, something they couldn't do in years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the intimidating part, because they're like, but we got funding all that time. What if we lose that funding? What if we lose? I don't know what they're afraid of, but like you said, it's not about you. It's about the kids being successful, the kids getting on with their lives, getting their careers, going on and with their families. And so it's about them. It's not about you. And we've made it all about them. And I think you're right. That's an intimidating factor. And so guess what? We're hanging on to our cMath book, our nursing math book. We're hanging on to it, and saying, hang on, we can't, we can't put it out there yet.
No.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Because that will be stolen too.
Yeah, we're talking about, it being not about them. We were in a meeting and they were saying, well, the problem with your workbook is that I feel like I'm not needed.
The teacher
we designed it so that if the teacher is not there, that
that's
the student can still understand, like the 12-year-old did.
Yeah. So ladies, listen, this has been perfect. This has been perfect. We want you to first of all, as I said, our audience, you guys have been killing it. I mean, they've been shooting thumbs up and hearts all day long. If you have parting comments, please make those at this time, and then share with our audience how they might contact you, etc. And then we will be ending our show after these parting words, and then I'll do a little parting word, and we have to have you back to talk more about the processes and the things that you're working on. But if you'll share your parting comments, please, and then let our audience know how they might can contact you.
Well, we have been together for a long time. Andrea and I have been together, and I know her passion, she knows my passion, and we're doing this. And if there's anybody out there that can see me, we're doing this for you. We're doing this for your children. We're doing this to the frustrated parent out there that can't help their child with their math. And so in fact, we our next one is a book that'll help parents get as well. And so here we are trying to individually, I Zoom almost every day with parents and with students every day that are so thankful because they're able to have that time, to be able to understand and honestly grateful. And so and we put all of that in this book, hoping that we could make ourselves be I guess more we could be out there for more people, for hundreds of people, and unfortunately it was taken from us to where and stolen, literally stolen from us, and it was something that it was really disheartening. But I still have hope that not only justice will be done for somebody like me, but Andrea and us, that justice will be served. And the Lord says vengeance is mine, and I'm going to sit back and wait, because I know something will happen soon.
I just wanted to say that I'm glad for the opportunity to be able to be free and no longer scared to be hiding behind, in the closet somewhere because someone has done something wrong to me, to us. And that's what the big revelation, what is going on now, that people are not seeing that there's little sly, little bitty things not happening. That they're saying that there's not any injustice, and here's proof right here that we want to be a part of our community, we want to be a part of our state and our nation, but they're not making room for us. We do have something to offer. And so I just wanted to state that we have history, we have proof, we have information that we can help from grade school to middle school to adults. We can intervene and help them reach their dreams, and that's what our desire is. And so if you want to reach out to us, contact us through the letter C, mathiseasy.com, or you can email us at the letter C, matheasy@gmail.com. And then and between those two, you can get our phone numbers and so forth. But we're, the United States is behind. And why can we not have see that there's a bigger picture, that there's things that we can box, that we can help children and adults start getting into those high-end jobs, so where they're not working from paycheck. Those who are you talking about wanting to get people off of food stamps and welfare and so forth, but if they don't have the foundation to get from where they are, they will always quit and drop out and never dreams, because they were not able to be able to complete. We're talking about underemployed and not employed. Employed is just as worse as almost as not employed, because you cannot get ahead. What if a basic math class, help someone go from underemployed to working at the refineries. I mean, it could be done in weeks, in days.
Wow. See, that's a beautiful testimonial, ladies, by both of you and by your guests that were here tonight. And dare I say, that's the intended purpose. Keep the education away, keep people from being able to do for themselves, so you can keep perpetrating a lie that people do not want to be successful, that they enjoy being in the ghettos and barrios, that they want to be a drain on the government. You can keep those lies going. So it's intended. And I'm going on record to say that it is intended. It is called systemic racism. So it can't be denied. It can't be denied. Just look around you. That's why I keep citing Susan DeVos. Come on. I don't even know if she can spell education, but you are in charge of the United States talking about educating and what should be done and what should not be done. And you have experts like ELSA and ANDREA. Let's even take it to people older than you guys. You have a Joe Clark. You have a George McKenna. You have all of these people that's been here already. You don't invite any of them to the table. So you don't want people to get educated and to be in competition. You can continue to perpetrate the lie. You can continue to put people in jail. You can continue to have people that you look down your nose on and try to label people migrants and all of this kind of stuff, because what happens? You get to keep the jobs. You get to keep the money. But when you get people in competition with you, ladies, I have to say this because my audience know how I am. That's why I love sports. It's competition. You know, you can be your daddy's son, your great grandfather, it might have been all of that. But that's why I love football. So when he gets his little body out there, his big body out there between those stripes, and you whip his behind, he can't hide. He can't hide. And that's what happens to us academically, is people try to hide you when you are sharp academically. And they try to put obstacles in place so that you cannot show the success that you have. When you have an Elsa Brown sitting right here, who's a math expert. When you have an Andrea Reynolds Johnson sitting right here, who's a math expert, but people try to squeeze you out, people that you are smarter than. That's the problem. Those same people that say that they are superior to you, and you run circles around them academically. So now how are you going to keep perpetrating that lie? The way you keep perpetrating that lie is to keep people out, to keep people from showing their expertise, to keep people from showing you how dumb you really are. And and I'm talking to my audience right now. That's how they do that. They being those individuals that keep perpetrating these lies about superiority. Hey guys, let's just face it. Let's face it. That's what you're up against. Look around the country. Look around any place that you are. You never see strong minority people that stand up and that can show what their expertise is without someone trying to. The very first thing, oh, well, they're too angry, or they don't fit in, or it's always an excuse as to something's wrong with them. Doesn't matter that they are much smarter than me. I keep trying to point out that there's something wrong with them, so you should not allow them. Think about it. This whole push about crooked Hillary, who's a bigger crook than Donald Trump? And the people decided they would, you know what, ladies, audience, our ladies are believers. And let's take it back to the Bible. Get mad with me if you want. If you don't believe in God, that's your problem. But let's take it back to the Bible. We had a choice. Barabbas or the man that say he's the Son of God? Who did the people choose? They chose Barabbas. The Bible tells us that Barabbas had been raping their women and murdering and pilfering, and these people stood there and chose Barabbas. These are the people that we are dealing with today, their offsprings. So I'm saying to those of you that allow yourselves to be identified as minorities, that allow yourselves to be identified as migrants, that allow yourselves to be identified as insurgents. You notice all the adjectives and adverbs that we put on people. Instead of calling people human beings, we try to discredit them by putting tags. And you have to be careful because people will have you thinking, wow, what's wrong with me? Because I'm tagged. So be careful when you are listening to people running their mouths and they're trying to talk fast so you won't get what they're saying. You just go, wow, and everything goes over your head. God has no respecter of person. Now, if you don't believe that, burn your Bible. It's that simple. No matter where people try to run to in the scripture and try to cherry pick and pull out little things and all these so-called interpretations, look at what the most renowned Bible scholars in the world, don't take my word, look it up. They say the most complete and the most accurate Bible is the King James Version, and it's only like 97% accurate. Look it up. You heard it right here first on the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. Don't take my word for it. So if the King James Bible is supposed to be the most accurate, and it's only like 97% accurate, what do you think? When it comes to those of us that believe, and you have people trying to tell you that they are superior to other people, and you have people trying to talk all this craziness to you and talk about Egypt in the Middle East, guess what? There is no Middle East. It's all on the continent of Africa. Look at you. Get you a Peter map. First of all, let me educate you a little bit, audience. Get you a Peter map, and you'll see the size, the real size of these states and continents, and you'll see Africa is so large, you could put 15, starting with America, inside the continent of Africa. And we know about Mexico. We know well, California, those were the Latino people. So stop the foolishness. And ANDREA and ELSA is living proof that we still suffer from the lies in 2020 because people refuse to have an honest conversation about life. God has no respect of person. It didn't say he picked up brown dirt, black dirt. He said he scooped from the clay, molded man, and breathed life. That's where it's, show me any place in the Bible where it starts a dichotomy of talking about different kinds of dirt, different times he broke. So it's craziness. And we see it being perpetrated right here. Students that really need the help of these ladies are being denied because of some ignorant, ideological foolishness that's totally perpetrated on narcissism and lies. Right here, before you, your parents have come on and they have spoken truth to the expertise that these ladies have and how they've helped their children. That's who you listen to. You don't listen to these other people that are just talking heads. You listen to the people that can tell you, hey, this is foolproof. So when we do these things, and when you guys come, and I love my audience, when you come to the Nobody Asked Me Guy show, we're going to keep it real. We're not pointing fingers. We're just having a conversation and talking about facts. See, people don't understand is what a discussion is not an argument. And when you can bring facts to the table, that's not an argument. And people say things like, well, there's your truth and my truth, and the truth is someplace in the middle. What's in the middle is a lie, because the truth is the truth. Melvin Lawrence can't have a truth, and you can't have a truth. You may have an opinion. It doesn't make it the truth. So let's not confuse the two. There's the truth and there's an opinion. Let's not confuse those, okay? So what we're dealing with here right now is what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and what I'm really upset about right now as an educator is that we have children and adults that are being punished simply because, and I'm not just talking about brown and black children. I'm talking about children that are labeled as being white and Caucasian and all that as well. If you're not in the upper echelon and people don't think your life matter, you have a problem in our country that we need to fix. All of us, we need to fix it. So I'm going to deprive you of an education because I don't want to let Elsa and Andrea have a seat at the table. And if I allow them to have a seat at the table, once they get to the table, I want them to remain silent. Doesn't matter if I'm holding a discussion that they are the ones that are the experts, and then I'm the one that's just babbling and talking about fringe information, and they have all the information. That's what you have to be careful of, guys. That's what I say to people all the time. That's what I love. That's why as a football player and a coach, I never allowed the news media to call my students student athletes because it's an insult. You are telling me that the two are not supposed to coexist in one person. You also don't do your study because if you look at history, it was in the early 1940s or 50s where a white athlete had gotten injured at this major university. The parents thought the university should pay. So they got an attorney. He found some loopholes and said, no, the university is not liable because your son is not an employee. He is a student, whereby we are labeling him a student athlete because they didn't want to pay for the man's injury. It had nothing to do with his cognitive ability. But today, here it is, October 16, 2020, and millions of people in this country have no clue that's where the word student athlete came from. It had nothing to do, and still has very little to do, with paying homage to young men and women and to parents that ensure that their children are educated. They think it's an honor, when quite frankly, when you find out the history of it, it's an insult. So ladies and gentlemen, that's always here with me, I thank you for being here. I thank you for allowing me to babble a little bit. I know you've had a great time listening to Elsa and listening to Andrea. We just want you to understand that you will be the ultimate difference maker. Obviously, we know God is first. If you're offended by the God, I'm sorry. But we know God is first. But we know every time people talk about having faith, they try to miss that part that say faith without works is dead. They try to run right past that. So you can say, oh, well, let's just sit back and pray. I pray 3 or 4 times a day, but I have to get up off my behind and get something done in the midst of my prayers. So listen, we're glad that you've been here with us. We're happy that you're here. Elsa, thank you so very much. Andrea, thank you so very much. I see, I'm talking so much, Gilda. I didn't even give you an opportunity. Gilda, would you like to share something with us briefly before we go? I'm so sorry.
I just want to say that I've been mentor and friend to Andrea and also to Elsa for the longest time. I represent the Inclusive Development Network Initiative here
Beautiful.
in Corpus Christi and Nueces County, target population of women and Hispanics. And I'm glad that I tuned in to listen to this testimony. It's very powerful, and I'm here to be of service and to help in any way I can. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you. I know that Elsa and Andrea appreciate you, and I appreciate you as well, and I'm just meeting you. So that's fantastic. So guys, listen, forgive me. I didn't mean to go on and on like that, but it just kind of got my damper up when I'm looking at these two beautiful ladies sitting here, and then and we have Gilda here, and they're working their hearts out to try to help children. And then here we have adult individuals that are standing in the way for their own selfish reasons. So guys, listen, you know, every Friday night, 7:00 p.m., we're here at the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. I'm Melvin Casey Lars, and guys, we keep it real. We're not going to insult people, but we have to say it like it is. Because if we don't, we are doing you an in-service. So we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'll speak for Melvin Lars. I can't speak for you. If by telling me the truth, you hurt my feelings, then I need to work on me. I may not like it, but I shouldn't allow it to hurt my feelings. The truth. I didn't say if you were criticizing me. I didn't say if you were beating me up. I didn't say that. Don't misconstrue what I said. If you're telling me the truth, you are helping me, then I should receive that as the truth. There's a difference in me beating you up and in me telling you the truth. So guys, thank you so much for being here. And you guys know I never can leave without talking to you about this. You know, I've just finished my last book called Just an Ordinary George. And we wrote this book as a tribute to the George Perry Floyd Jr. family. We wanted to talk about families. And that's what this book is about. It has plenty of history, plenty of pictures all through it. And we break it down, guys. We talk about how people first became white. See, it's a history book, really. It's a history, really. That happened. And people don't know that. You had to be in a certain socioeconomic strata, etc., before they would allow you to be white. You didn't know that, did you? So listen, this book talks to you about that. It talks to you about all the other stuff that we've talked about this evening. It walks you down through families. The book is called, and we have the front cover, is Standing on Shoulders. And we talk about ancestors, and you'll see George Floyd picture has been infused in here with the likes of Rosa Parks and all the other people. And let's tell you why we did that, guys. We did that because people tried to dismiss you. So here's a guy, George Perry Floyd Jr. He was not trying to start a revolution. He was not out protesting. The man was simply trying to go in the store and make a purchase. And he only had $19.99 and a penny. That's all. And the man loses his life for that. So we wrote this book because we wanted to talk about that and address all of this craziness. And it has not only has historical perspectives, but it has pictures and that type thing to kind of walk you through it. You can go to paypal.me/BrighterFutures91. paypal.me/BrighterFutures91. Guarantee you guys, best book you'll ever read. At least that's what I was told today by a young man. I won't call his name, but he said, man, it's the best book I've ever read. And we're excited about that. So listen, come back next Friday. We are continuing our month as we talk about domestic violence. I, as a man, feel very, very, very strongly is that the only way we're going to eradicate domestic violence is going to be through men. And all of this foolishness about men putting their hands on women and mistreating women and stuff like that. Ladies, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but if you got a boyfriend like that or you got a husband like that, he's a straight up coward. Why do I say that? It's because as a former star athlete, as a Golden Gloves boxer, etc., I've been around too many men, and I hear women say things to me like, oh, but he's a football player, he's a this, he's a that. But guess what? When he gets around real men and he's away from you, he ain't so tough. But he comes home and slap you around and talk all of that noise and all of that stuff, he's a coward. Because when he's dealing with men, it ain't happening. I say, well, I'll get my gun. Why? You don't get the gun for your woman. So understand, we are very serious when it comes to domestic violence and the eradication of it. And this month is dedicated to that. Now, next week, we're going to have as our guest, as we talk about, let me get my calendar here. We are going to have with us on next week, that's the 16th, 23rd, I'm sorry, Dr. Seals from Los Angeles. And Dr. Seals is a diversity trainer, and she'll be talking heavily about domestic violence. Then the following week, we have investigator Latienda Pierre Davis. She works for the Attorney General office here, and she talks heavily about domestic violence as well. And so we want you guys to come back. Feel free to join us. So it's been great having you here. Again, this is Nobody Asked Me Guy Show. I'm your host, Melvin Casey Lars. Again, we want to thank Andrea Reynolds Johnson and Miss Elsa Brown, and also our guest, Miss Gilda Roan. We had some parents here. I know Miss Denny was here with us, and I think it was it Miss Audrey? Is that her name? Was it Audrey? Well, our other parent, Hendry, that talked to us. So guys, thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. Feel free to stay on after the broadcast ends. If you want to chat with one another, I have questions for me, please feel free. But guys, this has been the Nobody Asked Me Guy Show. We want you guys to have a great and blessed evening, and we bid each and one of you a good night.